to edit a photo together so I can kind of show you the adjustments that I would make and the adjustments that we do make on my photos whenever I am editing. We're going to move them into Photoshop, and I'm going to show you what I would do for each picture with my actions and how I would fix them in Photoshop as well. And then we're going to show you how we are going to save them as well, so crisp for uploading to Instagram and to your websites. And really quick, this video is being sponsored by my actions for Photoshop and my presets for Lightroom, and I will have them in the link in the description below. Go through all 8 today, and I have a cake smash, I have a lifestyle newborn, I have a portrait session, I have a studio family picture, I have an all-white newborn setup, I have a regular newborn setup, I have a fall portrait, and I have my plum newborn preset that I'm going to be using as well. So all of my pictures are very neutral. I curate everybody's outfits, and just through my work that I already share, people know, my clients already kind of know what to wear to look really nice in the photos. Everything is super neutral, and so my presets really magnify that as well. So if you have lots of color or like vibrant colors in your photos, these are not going to be for you. These are going to be really earthy, muted, neutral tones and colors in the edit and whenever you're taking the picture as well. What you're taking a picture of really can make a difference of how the presets will look. If you're having clients that are wearing like highlighter outfit colors, these presets are not going to work. Everything is super, like I said, neutral and earthy, so you want them to be wearing those outfits as well. And I do send a style guide out whenever I am doing like talking to my clients too. So we are going to start with a cake smash photo. So I have the cake smash photo here, and we are going to apply we are first going to get rid of these outside angles. So I'm going to use the AI remove tool in Lightroom, and this works really well on here for this, especially just for these cake smash pictures. This goes really quick. So we will use this to remove any of these imperfections with the floorboards and the balloon garland and stuff like that. So we're going to remove that. I always remove it before I apply the preset, just because once you apply the preset, it kind of gets a little bit tricky for the software to match the color perfect. So I remove everything, all the imperfections first, and then I apply the preset on top. Okay, so it did this top part really good, which is a little bit more. This bottom part kind of stayed the same. So we're going to do that one more time. Send it through the remove AI tool. Should fix that. I'm also going to fix the one over here. This one got messed up a little bit, so we'll do that as well. See if we can get that fixed. It kind of like mirrored the one into the floor. Perfect. Okay. So now that that's better, we're going to apply our cake smash preset, and a lot of them do come up very green, and it's a little off-putting at first, but everybody's camera settings and everybody's lighting situation is going to be different. So I wanted you to be able to bring that back up to correct it like accurately. So we're going to move this back up to the pink and bring that back up, and also warm it up a little bit because now it looks really blue. And we're going to up the exposure, maybe lower the highlights just a little bit, and then that's about it. That looks really cute, just like that. And then another thing you could do to really make the blue pop is come down to the color mixer, and we can make the saturation go up a little bit, so we can make it just a little bit brighter of a color if we feel like some of the colors get lost. But that's really cute, just like that. I would leave it there. This is the before and after. So we'll save that, and this is going to be one of the photos that we can move into Photoshop and do some skin smoothing and like eye popping, just a couple finishing touches to make it look really nice. So my rule of thumb is if I take the picture with my studio light, I am moving it into Photoshop and doing some finishing touches. Now, things that are taken like lifestyle with natural lighting, I typically don't move into Photoshop to correct anything unless I am posting it on my social media or on my website, then I will go in and take it into Photoshop to resize it for social media and my website. Otherwise, I'm not moving that stuff into Photoshop for anything. Okay, so the next picture we have here is going to be a lifestyle photo. I am just going to quickly fix the crop a little bit. So this wall here where this banister is sometimes can throw you off if it's a little bit off-centered. So you kind of just want to go in the middle of each of that because it's still like kind of crooked. Crop out the rest of that wall, then it will not look as bad because then you only have one line to focus on. But we can kind of make it in the middle a little bit. Sometimes the lines inside of someone's house can be tricky because you have one up here, one coming down the side, maybe one on the other side. You have to worry about whether the windows are straight. Just kind of make it straight to your eye and make sure it's not crooked. Okay, so we're going to apply the Everyday Lifestyle preset, and I love this one because it's really close to being like one click and done. I am going to lower the warmth a little bit. And this one is a little bit green too, so we're going to up that pink just a smidge and bring that exposure down, up the highlights a little bit, and that's pretty much it for that one. Before, after. So like I said, this isn't one that I would move into Photoshop, only if I was posting this to social media or having it on my website. I would go into Photoshop and resize it, and I will show you how we're going to do that too. Okay, so our next one is going to be a outdoor portrait. And for this photo, it is a little bit overcast with the clouds. It wasn't very sunny this day. I would, however, still use the golden hour preset, and it's going to help in the summertime. It's going to help those greens be really green. So I really love the golden hour preset whenever it's warm outside, even if it's overcast. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like, and it does have a background, little black background blur effect. So the AI is going to load onto this once you click the preset. Okay, so now we're loaded. And I am going to lower exposure a little bit, up the highlights a little bit. And this one is so pretty just by itself. We're going to lower the warmth some to about right there. And that is about done for that. So pretty, so stunning. The greens are greening, and I love it. So anytime I have something that's overcast, I still am using this preset, especially if it's in the summertime, and you have lots of greenery in your pictures. This is going to be perfect for that. Okay, so the next one on here is a family studio portrait. So same thing, we're just going to bring this in a little bit so they're a little more evened here. Crop. So this one is pretty like one and done too. Once I apply it, I will just go in and fix the exposure a little bit, do the highlights a little bit and the shadows, and do a little bit of the temperature. Otherwise, this is absolutely perfect, and this is one that I will move into Photoshop and do a little bit of finishing touches on with the actions. So this one is really pretty because it's pretty much just like one and done, apply it and ready to go, minus a couple like exposure or highlights or shadows. Very pretty. Okay, so then our next one is going to be a newborn photo, and this is one that I would use the Everyday Newborn All White preset for, only because I have her in a white outfit, on a white pillow, on a white blanket. Everything is white and crisp, and like I said 100 times already, I do have a lot of creams and neutrals and things in my pictures that are just super like simple. So this is just another simple set that is all white. So I have a all white preset that I will apply to this. And it just helps make the whites really pretty, so you don't have to fix them for every picture that you have like an all white or an all cream setup. So once that backdrop is extended, I am going to select the all white preset, and it comes up very green, but I want you to be able to take that tint, that green tint slider, and slide it up to the pink until you reach a point where it's not quite purple, but the whites are very white. And then I am going to up the exposure just a little bit, up the highlights a little bit, maybe up the contrast just a smidge, and that looks perfect. I am going to fix this crop in Photoshop as well. So this is the before and this is the after, and it just helps keep those whites really white. Okay, so the next picture I have on here, and that's also one that we're going to upload into Photoshop. This is just a regular newborn photo that I will use the everyday newborn preset for. The everyday newborn preset is good for pictures that you just have the baby on a neutral backdrop, you have the baby on a wood floor, you have the baby in a basket. This is like an overall neutral regular preset, and I use this for almost every newborn picture unless it's a white like backdrop or a plum backdrop. Really the only colors I use in newborn pictures are muted tones, and I use my purple, like my plum preset for those ones. But this one, we are going to apply the everyday newborn. Comes up a little bit orangey because he's already on a tan backdrop. We're going to lower that exposure just a little bit, lower those highlights a little bit, up the contrast some, and then we're going to lower that temp just a smidgen to about right there. Looks good. So this is before and this is after. We will upload this one into Photoshop. Next, we're going to do our plum backdrop. So this is really the only other color. If I have a girl, I will use this plum often if they want like girlier photos. If I have boys, I usually would just use like the brown or creams, whatever color I have that's neutral. So I made up a specific preset for this backdrop. So again, you're not fixing it every time you have like a plum or muted tone on your posing bed. So I use the AI remove tool just to extend that backdrop and get rid of any big like hair flakes on there. So we are going to apply the everyday newborn plum, and it's just going to help keep those purples really purple. And we're going to up the exposure a little bit, lower the highlights. We are going to lower that temp just a little bit for these purple ones. You want it to be a little bit on the cooler side so that purple really sticks out. We are going to up that tint a little bit, make it a little bit more warmer. Lower exposure again. Okay, and that looks perfect. One little trick I will do is instead of messing with like the colors or the saturation, I will up the vibrance a little bit, and that just helps give whatever color is there a little more life. So this is the before and this is the after, and this just really helps keep those purples that you have them on really pretty purple. Okay, so then the last one we have here is my fall portrait, the everyday fall portrait, and this one is going to be great for the warm tones in the fall time. Now I am up north in Pittsburgh, so we get a lot of fall colors, so I had to make something that was gonna work with that too. So this is gonna be the everyday fall portrait for whenever you have those warmer colors outside. So we're going to click on that, and this already looks really great. I love the way this looks. And maybe I'm gonna bring down this tint just a little bit to the green side just because her face was looking a little more purpley pink. Maybe up the exposure just a little bit, and then that's going to be it. Before, after, before, after. This will be really good for those warmer colors outside in October and November and look really pretty. Okay, so the pictures that I am going to move into Photoshop are going to be the ones that I took with my studio light. So I'm going to do the plum one. Okay, so we're going to do the plum, the regular newborn, the white newborn, family portrait, and the cake smash. We're going to right click and we're going to edit in Photoshop. Okay, we're going to open up our actions, everyday newborn actions. So I really just go down the list of this whole thing and we'll do each one. Now the cake smash ones are a little bit more simple, so we'll soften his skin a little bit with this brush. So we'll use this brush one and we'll just soften up his skin. Make it a little more dreamy and pretty. So we'll brush this on with the brush tool. And then we can go over here to the opacity and we can lower that down a little bit if it's just a little bit too much. It always starts out with a lot and then you can bring it down to wherever you want it to be. I usually am about here. Okay, we're going to, I have iMac. So we're going to Command Shift E is going to Command Shift E is going to flatten those together. So we got that one done and we're going to move on to the next one. We're going to do the eye pop. And this is just going to help his eyes pop out a little bit and kind of sharpen them and make them really pretty. Oh, went too far. We'll keep these just on his eyes. So let me go back so we can see. So we'll keep these just on his eyes here, right there. And they just make the clarity a little bit better, kind of make them pop a little bit. And same thing with the opacity here. You can leave it up all the way, which I usually do. So we're going to Command Shift E, and that's going to be it for that. And then you can brighten the highlights. And that's just going to make it a little bit brighter, going to make it pop a little bit. And we can soften the background some. That just kind of puts a nice little white soft glow around him. Command Shift E. Do a little bit of the extra contrast. And that's going to be an overall like definition of the photo. So that looks really cute. This one I do lower the opacity just a little bit to about 20%. And then we can warm it up too. Let's warm it up a little bit. So we'll warm it up a little bit. So this is the before and after. It's very subtle. You can also go to the opacity and do a little bit more if you want to. I think that one around there was perfect. So this is going to be the post to socials action is what you're going to click before you want to share them on Instagram, Facebook, or upload them to your website. It is going to resize them so they are perfect for the social media like algorithm and stuff. And they look very crisp and sharp whenever you post them on Instagram. That is always my secret and my key to having my pictures look incredibly sharp on Instagram is resizing them whenever I am posting. So it is going to resize the picture and then it's going to add a little bit of extra contrast to it as well. And so this is what it looks like before that contrast, after the contrast. And you can even lower that opacity too on that a little bit if it's a little bit too much. So we're going to Command Shift E that, and that is going to be it. So now this picture is ready to post on social media and it's going to be extremely sharp whenever you're looking at it. It is going to be resized. So anytime you're uploading things to your to your website as well, if you're putting like your pictures on a gallery on your website, they should all be resized. using a resizing action, it's going to help your website load quicker. It's going to help with the SEO and the Google, because your website is going to be able to load quicker. We don't need very large files on our website, so this is crucial for that, and for, like I said, uploading to social media. It's going to look really crisp and sharp whenever you are sharing. Okay, so that's all I'm really going to do for my cake smash picture. I really soften the skin. I will have the eye pop action. I will brighten the highlights, soften the background a little bit if the colors call for it, warm it up, extra contrast, and then post to socials if I am posting it to social media or using it on my website. Okay, so our next picture is going to be this plum backdrop photo. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to zoom in, and I am just going to remove some of these little textures or blemishes here, maybe where the baby might have scratched their face, or just where dry skin is. We can just remove that. So I'm just highlighting the area that I want to remove and hitting delete and then enter. Whenever you do that, you just want to make sure that you have content aware selected, and then okay. And then, so for the newborn one, I'm pretty much going to run down this whole thing. Maybe except for the eye pop one. Really save that for the eyes that are open. Go onto my brush on baby's skin. And this one just really helps smooth everything. It's not like a remover. It's not going to remove any blemishes or anything, but it is going to just smooth that skin. I like to keep them as natural as possible. And this is also very harsh whenever you first put it on. So like I said before, you can lower that opacity, and I lower that to about 55 or so. So we'll flatten that. Now, the newborn glow is if you need to add a little bit more of a highlight to their face. And whenever you put this on, it is extreme. But we are going to lower it down. So this is just going to help give any highlights or accents to the part of the picture that is a little bit more dull. So it just kind of make their skin glow a little bit more. And then, like I said, it's a little bit aggressive when you put it on, but you can take the opacity down, and I usually have it to 10% or below, depending on, the baby and what we want it to look like. You can make it go higher or lower. So we'll put that on about there, and we can show the before and after, and it just brightens up those highlights a little bit on the skin to make them look a little more alive and cute. Flatten that. Now the even skin one, I don't really need it for this picture, but this is if you have hot spots on the baby's face where the a little bit too bright. That even skin is going to help tone that down, almost like a subtraction of highlights, if you will, but it's going to help bring that skin back down. And like I said, this is if you have too many highlights, or if the highlights are too harsh, you can use that to bring that skin back down. I actually like the way it looks without this, so we're going to take that off, but that's what that one does. Remove reds does exactly what it says. It removes any redness. This one is perfect, so I'm not going to use any of that, but if I did, it's a brush as well, so you can click on it. And it'll remove any redness that you see. Some babies are really red that I do use this for, but this isn't really super necessary for this one. But same thing, you can lower the opacity on it. So we'll flatten that. Eye pops whenever their eyes are open. Pretty lips just help their lips have a little more definition, and they perk them up a little bit, like a little bit more pink. But it just helps make them a little bit prettier, if you will. These are all like finishing touches of newborn photos. And I don't ever use like AI tools right now to help edit anything. I am hand editing all of my pictures. Now, pretty lashes are going to help define the eyelashes on their eyes, especially whenever they're closed. Some babies have eyelashes, so this one is really pretty for zooming in and getting a tight line on that. So we'll zoom in to her eyes. And you could probably even use this for the eyebrows too, but definitely eyelash line. And then you can also make this a little bit bigger and lower the opacity of the brush itself and just paint on like where her eyelashes are, and it will help make them a little bit darker. So then we'll zoom out, make sure that looks okay. Just helps give those eye creases a little bit more definition. I'm going to lower the opacity on that, flatten that image. And the next one is brighten highlights. That just helps bring a little bit more highlights back, and it just helps brighten the overall photo without doing like too much. So before, after, just helps brighten it up a little bit. We like it. Soft background I am not going to use on this one just because of the purple color. I don't want to dilute from that. We can warm it up a little bit. So we warmed it up a little bit before, after. We'll zoom out and take a look at it. That looks cute. So the skin hair contrast brush that I have on here is going to help if they have like a bonnet on and they have lots of hair and they have a little bit of hair sticking out. That would be the perfect brush for that. It just helps define it a little bit. So adding a little bit more extra contrast, or like on the eyebrows or around the nose, anywhere that you lose a little bit of texture, you can add that texture back in with the skin hair contrast brush. I don't really need it for this one. Maybe show you on another one. I am going to add a little bit of that extra contrast. So whenever I'm doing this in my workflow, it kind of goes, I go through them relatively quickly because you start to learn like how much of each action you want to use on that photo, and then you can just edit through them really quick. I am going to select the make it matte, and that's just going to make the picture a little more matte-like in the black areas. It's going to soften those up, and I really love the way that looks with the neutral tones and colors that I use in my work. So I like having the little matte texture on my photos too. And that looks perfect. And then the opacity is over here too. You can lower that down or make it even more matte if you would like. I like about where it was, looked really cute. And then the last thing you're gonna do is post the socials. And that's gonna resize it for us. It's gonna add that little bit of extra texture, like I said, so we can lower that down a little bit. It's just gonna help make it super sharp and crisp for whenever we upload it to social media. Okay, so then our next photo, we're gonna do this guy. So I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna start with the same thing, going over the texture on his skin. I don't like to remove too much, like I said, too much texture. I like to keep them super like natural, and I will even ask the parents if I see like a birthmark or something that may or may not have been there. I like to double check to make sure that it's not something I'm going to be removing whenever I'm editing. If it's something that they were born with or something that they always have, I do leave that there. I want to keep it as natural as possible, but also keeping it really pretty and soft. So we'll remove some of the dry skin texture, and doing the softened skin too is gonna really help that as well. See, even here on his arms where he has these two little red marks, get rid of those. Sometimes they just really be scratching themselves. So get rid of the red. Okay, zoom back out a little bit. Let's do the softened skin. Select our brush tool. I'm gonna put our opacity back up. There we go. We're gonna brush this on his little face. His arms, his little exposed back. Okay, and then I do lower that opacity. We'll do 58% for this one. I feel like he's already really glowy. I am gonna do the even skin because his arm here and like right here might be a little bit too bright. So we'll even skin him and we can turn that opacity down too to wherever we think will look best. So we'll do that. And let me show you before and after. So we can lower that down just a little bit. It just takes away some of the hot spots from the light. So we'll leave it there. That looks perfect. I don't think he looks too red. I think it looks great. We can do his pretty lips. So sometimes for girls, it's a little more prominent whenever I put it on. And for boys, we kind of dim it down a little bit. We don't want it to look like they're wearing lipstick. But it does kind of give their lip a little bit more extra color and definition and just looks a little bit cuter. I am going to lower that down to about 20%. And then pretty lashes, same thing. Sometimes it's just really defining the lash line of their eye more than like actually defining their lashes itself. So like for boys, I'm just going to worry about defining the eye, like where their eye is closed. So we'll back up and see how that looks. So it's a little bit prominent. As you can see, it looks really dark. So we're going to lower this down to like there. This helps define it a little bit better. I'm not going to brighten the highlights because I feel like it's already pretty well lit of a photo. I can add the softened background just to show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. It's just like a ring of really soft cream color, but we can tone this down definitely for sure, like a vignette a vignette of color. But I usually will tone this like way down to like 10% or even lower, and it's just giving your picture a little bit of softness on the outside skirts on the outside skirts of the photo. And then we're gonna warm it up. And I think that looks pretty good. You don't want to go too orange. Do extra contrast. Tone that down a little. And we'll make it matte. Tone that down a little. Perfect. And then lastly, we'll post to socials. Now You're only doing this if you're sharing them on social media or putting them on your website. You do not need to post to socials if you are saving the pictures to upload them to a gallery to send to your client. That is strictly for social media and your website. So we are going to twist this so she's up a little bit more, like she's sitting up on that pillow a little bit more on the bed. And then we're going to fill this backdrop in with content aware fill on the fill selection, like on the drop down menu. And it should fill that in for us. Usually it does an okay job. If it's a solid color, it does an okay job. I honestly sometimes like Lightroom a little bit better for this. See, it added like extra pillows. Okay, let's see if we can fix this. Let's just select. I can't with this. Okay, we're just going to use the paint. I'm going to use the brush tool and I'm going to even out this white back here. We're just going to brush on that same color. Okay, that looks cute. I think her skin looks pretty good. Let's just go with the softened skin. Her little lips. Her mouth was wide open. Okay. Softened skin. Oh, let's put this opacity back up. Okay, let's zoom out. We're going to lower this opacity about there. Could add some newborn glow. Usually it's like the T-zone right here. A little bit above the lip on the chin. Lower that down quite a bit. At 9%. We're going to do pretty lips. Her lips are already pretty red, but we'll just define them in a little bit better. So cute. Lower that down for sure. Lashes. Zoom in, do her little lashes. We could probably do some remove reds too. She is a little red. Let's do that. Let's back up a little bit and see how she looks. Go down. That looks really good. That looks cute. Take some of that redness off so her skin looks a little more skin-like. So her skin looks a little nicer. Okay, so we did pretty lips. Let's do her lashes. We're going to zoom in so we can see her lashes a little bit better. So one thing I can say that if you are going to use the brush and it's not brushing on, you want to come over here to where those little black and white boxes are. If you have a black box on your layer where you're brushing on, you want to have a white box selected. That's what's going to have the actions show up of where you're brushing it. If you have a black box selected over here, it's going to either not show up or take off wherever you put on. So if you have a black box on your layer, you want a white box on your brush. And vice versa. If you have a white box on your layer, you want a black box on your brush. They're opposite of each other, so one is going to brush it on and one is going to take it off. Lower that opacity on those eyelashes. Okay, brighten highlights. And you could just see how the white still looks really white and pretty. It's not like washed out or too purple or anything. And it looks really good. So we're going to also do the soften the background on here. And we're going to lower that down to about 14. You can do the warm it up. Almost every newborn picture, I am running through the same actions. Warm it up a little bit. And then here, so whenever you do warm it up, it's going to warm up the entire photo. So it might warm up your backdrop too. But you can always go over to the brush tool and put on a black square over here because it's white on the layer. And you'll use your brush and you can brush off on the backdrop if you want to. Or brush off the whole thing and then switch colors again, switch onto the white, and you can just brush on the baby skin if you wanted to. You don't have to do the whole picture, but I usually warm up the whole picture if I do anyways. Usually the whites are still like really white and pretty whenever I'm putting this on. It just kind of depends on the lighting and what the baby was wearing and everything. So we're going to add the extra contrast. It's raining again. It's been raining off and on all day today. Extra contrast. Perfect. This one I just like to have a little touch of on the white setups. We're going to make it matte. Now, whenever it's white, it's hard to tell as well whenever the matte is on. But we have that on. I am going to lower that a little bit. And then lastly, to post to social media, we're going to post to socials. And that's going to resize it for us. It is going to make the contrast higher again. So we're going to turn that down. And then it's resized. So that is that one. So cute. Okay, our last photo here is the family picture. And this one is usually pretty easy too. We're going to go through the skin soften for sure. And then depends on where the baby is, if they're wrapped or if they're just holding them. If I'll have to do like any of the newborn specific actions like the eyelashes or the newborn glow. It just depends on how far away they are from me, who's holding the baby, where the light is, and all that stuff. So it's really picture dependent. This one, the baby's a little bit farther away and is in like the perfect spot for the light because she was sitting upright on Dad's chest. So she looks great right here. I wouldn't really have to add anything. I am just going to soften everybody's skin. And whenever it's like the parents' photos like this, it's not super like imperative that you have to be super nitpicky of what you're highlighting because it's just there to accentuate their skin. It's not really there to do anything else. So we will tone it down quite a bit for family photos just to make it look a little more softer and smoother, not necessarily to like get rid of wrinkles and stuff like that. So we're going to go down. I would even go lower than I would for a newborn photo. That looks good right there. I'm going to do the eye pop action for their eyes. And then maybe the pretty lip ones. maybe the pretty lip action for mom and baby. So we'll leave that like that. Pretty lips. Cute. We'll zoom in a little bit and we will do pretty lashes for the baby just so we can see her closed eyes a little bit more defined. We'll do that and that. Lower that down just a little bit, but because she's so far away, I do want it a little bit higher just so we can see her closed eyes stick out a little bit better. Brighten highlights. You might have to lower that a little bit because it's already a very well lit photo. We'll see how it comes out. No, that looks perfect. And then family photos. So for my newborn sessions, I don't really bring backdrops. Let me make sure I'm still recording. So for my newborn sessions, I don't really bring backdrops for family members. I really just like to take my studio pictures in their home, like in their living room, in front of their couch, in the nursery, wherever we have room for my lighting is where I like to do the family pictures. I do like lifestyle ones too, either in the nursery or in the living room. But then I'll open my light, just gives them a little bit more options of what to choose from whenever they get their final gallery. And so I don't bring any backdrops or anything with me, but I do like to have on my family pictures to soften the background a little bit, just so they can see that they're in their home, but also it's a really pretty, like, soft photo behind them, and it's not, if they felt like their home was a little bit cramped or messy or dirty, or they just had a baby, so they just didn't want anybody in their home. I do like to soften the background a little bit just to make it a little bit more cohesive. So whenever you're looking at my portfolio, even though I'm not using backgrounds or backdrops for the family photos, they relatively all look the same color-wise. So you can see and feel and tell what your newborn or what your family photos are going to look like for yourself before you even book with me. And I think that's really important, especially if I'm not using a backdrop or anything for family pictures. I still want them to look pretty cohesive. So whenever somebody looks at my portfolio, they can see themselves in these pictures because they're all relatively the same edit-wise. So we're going to put it about there. And so this is the before, where it's just really defined and dark behind them. And then it just lightens it up a little bit. Okay. That is my spiel on that. We're going to warm this up. I really love warm pictures, especially newborn pictures. I just love the warm and cozy, rich vibes of them. We're going to do the extra contrast. And we're going to tone that down a little bit, down to 13%. And then the last part is the make it matte. And that looks really good. Let's just lower that down. 27. Really cute. And post the socials. Resize it. Precious. Lower that contrast down in that. Perfect. So now I have all my pictures ready to get posted onto social media. This is my workflow for newborn sessions, cake smash sessions, really any session that I'm editing. I have the exact same workflow every time, and the more you practice and get it right in camera, the easier it's going to be to edit these photos, and you're not going to need 1,010 presets for whatever photo you want to use. Need one or two good ones, and once you figure out and once you get your exposure and your temperature down, your white balance down in camera, editing becomes so much easier. And like I said, I only really use these same presets for everything. workflow is super simple. I don't have a million actions to choose from. I don't have a million presets to choose from just because I don't need them. I've got my editing down pat to a science, and everything is pretty repetitious and the same. So I am going to link below in the description my presets and my actions. You can purchase it together or you can purchase them separately if you just want to try one or the other. Oh, really quick, I also get lots of questions about what gear I'm using and what I'm taking into clients' homes whenever I'm doing newborn sessions. So I am going to put my gear guide below as well. I'm going to put it in the description, a link, and you can copy and download the gear guide so you can get exactly what I use to create these sessions and create these pictures in my client's home. Even if you don't use my presets or my actions, I hope this video was helpful to show you how I edit and walk through all of my sessions per what I'm shooting and stuff like that. So if you have any other questions or want to know anything else about my workflow or my editing, please leave it in the comments and let me know, and I will see you in the next video.